Thank you, Dennis, for joining us, and thank you to our very special guest, Calypso, for joining us this week. How are you,
Yes,
Calypso?
hello everyone. I'm
Hey,
great. I'm
Calypso.
great. Hi everybody.
Good. Glad everybody's good. Glad we're all ready. Everybody ready in the chat. Cutthroat Gaming and Varric Keldon and Pandora Jane, thank you very much for hosting the stream today. We really appreciate that. Faceless Mike as well. I see. We really appreciate that. And with that out of the way, let's get started back with Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. We had left off with Dr. Maximilian Roivas.
This is one of my favorite levels. One of my favorite things about this game are things you're about to discover. It's a pretty interesting level overall, I think, personally.
Okay. I forgot I was dual wielding these pistols like a boss when we had left. Okay. So first of all, check the letter. Dear friend, cursed servants of Huloth. So close I can almost hear them chittering. Interesting. Okay. So let's see what else is in this room.
What door leads to Hello Kitty Island? Says Varric.
Nice.
I wouldn't be surprised. That'd be terrifying at this point. Oh, wait. Is there... Oh, there is no door. Am I blind, or...
I unfortunately can't remember that section very well.
Oh, I remember this section very well.
Interesting.
You don't remember how you got in here. That's the problem. You got in through the fireplace.
Ah, through the fireplace. Okay. I don't think there was anything else in this room. It didn't look like it. Well, there is this symbol on the wall.
Dennis,
Yes.
in the recent Memento Mori trailer, the voice actor sounds a lot like Simon Templeman. Is he back?
That is not Simon Templeman. It is Chris. I'm trying to remember. Let me think of his last name. But he is awesome. Chris
Awesome.
Chris Awesome, maybe. Hold on one second. I'm getting some text here. Chris Sharps. And I'd say we went through about 4 or 5. George is not only doing the voiceover of the Revenant, but he's also the casting director, and he must have went through probably 30 or 40 people, and he got it down to like 4 people. And then we had discussions, and we went with Chris because of his excellent sort of Shakespearean tone, and we wanted someone who could be really sarcastic and really give that vibe of, I guess that original voice that we sort of had for Blood Omen Legacy of Kain. So it's not a surprise that a lot of people thought it was Simon Templeman. No, it's Chris Sharps. Pretty awesome guy. Awesome.
Yeah, at first I thought it was Simon also somehow, and then watching it like 10 more times, it's not. But it's a good match. It's a close match. So great job on that voice casting.
Oh, thanks. Well, George gets a lot of the credit for all of that, and from the standpoint of getting a feeling of where we want to take the story, I think it's going to be very interesting. That was a very focused view, and I really am looking forward to rolling out more of the story and the narrative for Dead House, because I think people are going to be pretty excited about it. Like these are like small snippets of where we're going to take it, and I think I love it personally. So.
Oh, well, seeing as how Jalen's in combat right now, this is actually an Eternal Darkness question from Golden Zan. It's, do the enemies in Eternal Darkness have variable health, either as a whole or in their individual parts?
Yes to all of the above. Each different body part has its own health, and also the different types of monsters will have different statistics and health as well.
That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. I didn't know that.
Mhm.
All right, so this is kind of a long-winded one for Dead House. Let me try to break it up into parts here. For example, I've been playing Warframe a little bit, and I noticed that that because it's pretty, like, I think it's 6 years or 7 years old now. When you start the game, you go through the tutorial and you go through the story and everything like that. But that story, I believe, has been there since like day one, and you kind of play through it before you can start unlocking, like, later parts of the lore and going on raids and all this other stuff. So with Ages, we can obviously craft and go through the early parts of what Dead House will be and sort of form it into our own, obviously with your guys' approval and just hashing it out with the community and everything. Later on down the line, for people who don't go through Ages 1 and Ages 2, or the first and second Age, will they be able to go through the story regardless, like in Warframe when you first started up, even though the game is 6 years old now, and you go through that main story arc, right? I believe.
Yeah, so that is...
Wow, that is perfect even for this session. That's a fantastic question, and how can I just... I get excited when I think about
these particular questions, and let me... This is going to be a long answer, but I think a good answer. Hopefully people will appreciate it. For the longest time, online games and narrative, particularly free-to-play games and narrative, are considered an oxymoron. And people in the space so far, when it comes to telling storylines, generally people have taken the Hollywood perspective, which is a linear approach to storytelling. And when they do something that's online, the way that they will do it is, so I'm going to take Legacy of Kain, a storyline, as an example. Most people, 95% of developers and publishers will do a story where they'll take it from beginning to end and they'll say, this is online, so we want to break it up into DLC so we can keep that recurring revenue going. So what they'll do is they'll cut the story in half and say, here's your first part. And then the second 2 quarters that they will sell you for $25 or whatever, that will continue the story. And gamers get that. And they're like, that's bullshit, man. And I kind of agree. And I'm like, to be clear, I'm not saying that Eidos or anyone did that. I'm using this as a hypothetical example. And so far, traditionally in our industry, people have taken premium approaches to games, which are linear storytelling. So with Kain, it's the same story from beginning to end. Now, being online and the whole concept of persistence allows for something that's truly remarkable that for some reason no one in the games industry seems to have taken advantage of yet, and that is emergent storytelling. So as an example, we're playing Eternal Darkness right now. Now, if you're playing Eternal Darkness and now we're in the mansion at, I believe this is the first time period, and then when you visit the mansion, you will be in the same mansion, only it'll be changed from what this character has done, correct? And then when you play in Alex's timeline, you'll be in a same location where 2 other characters have had an effect, and it changes over time. Time will rot things, vines will grow, and Angkor Wat. All of these kind of things are, even though it's done in a linear fashion in Eternal Darkness, imagine if we did it in emergent fashion. So the whole idea of, will you be able to do that first storyline that you get, say, something in Warframe? Imagine if the answer was yes, but all the things that people did before you in the different ages will affect how that level is.
All right.
That's what we're going to offer. So we're offering layers and layers upon different levels of storytelling, and I feel that from a standpoint of opportunity, that we have a lot of unexplored territory here. So that's where I really think the type of storytelling that we're going to do for Dead House Sonata is truly going to stand out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Like, Yeah. So if I was playing Dead House and I never played it before, and we're 5 years in,
Okay.
if I went to Anumat's the capital, right?
Sure.
If I went to Anumat, and there's like a crumbling building, and there's, let's see, a bunch of tombstones or whatever, will the people in those earlier years have gotten to experience that? And would I have an effect on like let's say I'm playing a lich and I want to like raise up one of those dead bodies or whatever? Would there be some kind of, I guess it's a cross between environmental storytelling and I guess immersive and like influential storytelling? Like if I raise up dead guy number A who was alive in like the first age, is there going to be any like cause and effect for that?
Yeah. So imagine it like this. I think I've spoken about this before. It's like a combination of big data meets storytelling. So traditionally, people look at big data as just storing information for credit card numbers and what people's buying habits are. Imagine if we did it for history and for anthropology. So as an example, you're looking at whatever this dead body was for whatever reason at Angkor Wat, maybe before it was the city of the dead.
Yeah.
Maybe it was for the first empire that was before Dead House rose, and how that person died. And if we had players do that in the first stage and allowed people to play storylines like that, what happened to that character if we stored it, theoretically, if we did it right, you'd be able to raise that character up. And if it was your friend that was in the first age that actually killed him, he would be able to tell you the story of how he was killed. And you'd be like, I know that guy. He was playing like 5 years ago. That's cool. And that is the idea of what we're trying to do. So the whole idea of allowing people to have an effect on the world within limits, of course, but that's really close to real life. More close to real life than what you have in a movie. And that's simply because we have a living, breathing world that's persistent. It's this persistence in storytelling. Very few games do it. And I think certainly I'm unaware of, I can only think of a handful of games that do it. And most games, when they try to tell a big narrative story, have gone the traditional premium way, where they take a Hollywood approach, they have a 3-act story, and I guess the type of games that I lean towards, which are world-building techniques like Lord of the Rings or, Steven Erikson or other authors that don't usually follow the 3-act narrative approach, lends itself more to this. And, quite frankly, my background is computer science. So this is the way I think of things. I think of things in structures. And how can we layer these different structures to really give gamers an opportunity to experience things like they never had before? And just on this level, I think that this is provocative, unique, and I think we can offer something. So that story that we tell in Memento Mori, imagine that is the vampire that you played. When someone visits that area, they will see the ramifications of your actions. They can still go through the same scenario that you went through, but it will be changed and altered by what you've done. And those effects will be there and explorable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, now I get it. I think I finally get it. I hope everyone else gets it too.
Yeah. Dead House Sonata is definitely not going to be the simplest game out there, so there's quite a bit to understand and try to wrap your head around.
Well, so if I could say this much, yes, the
ideas are complicated, just like the ideas with interactive streaming or deep social media. Once you experience them in practice, it was the same thing when we were talking about sanity effects before they were ever done before. And a lot of people had a hard time with it. A lot of people didn't think we should do it. Didn't think it would be fun. and we just did it. And now we just call it breaking the fourth wall. Someone put that on, oh, you're breaking the fourth wall. It's like, oh, that's a cool name for it. But once you experience it, so if you were playing the game and you were going through that level in the 5th age or the 10th age or the 50th age, whatever the age is going to be, and you're able to look at all that history, go, oh, this is a feature. But trying to explain it like I'm explaining it now from a much larger 10,000 foot level is actually, it's tough to get your head around. And it's just like when it's the same sort of concept of single player, multiplayer, meta player. And the meta player is the stuff we're talking about with the, interactive streaming. It's hard to wrap your head around it because you literally can have people playing your game without having your game.
Yeah, that's pretty mind-blowing.
It's very different. And however, once you look at the specific implementation, you're like, oh, this is cool. I get it. This is neat. And then people will just adopt it as, I get it. I understand it. And we're going to take all of these things in slow steps. For those who are worried, our first priority is narrative-driven story. That's what we're going to have, free-to-play, online, narrative-driven action RPG. Second priority is going to be interactive streaming. Third is going to be community-driven content. So for those people who want to contribute from the community, they'll be able to. And I think all of these things combined will add up to more than the sum of their parts. That's the goal.
That's a pretty good layout. I like that. This is kind of another.
Yes, sir, Jalen.
Sorry, yeah, I don't mean
sorry.
to cut you off, Calypso, but I just know that if I can't figure out this area real quick, that chat's gonna start getting mad at me. So this rune on the wall that I can see, I have a basement key that I need to get down somewhere. I understand that I need to cast a certain spell around here.
Yeah, you want to do something that's more powerful than blue. Do you have all 3 colors yet?
I do have the green one.
Red, blue, green. So yeah, what's more powerful than red?
That was.
Yes, green. That would be green.
Okay.
That'll be green.
Okay, so do it with green. What's my item area? Nope.
Well, yeah, that's you're creating a spell that doesn't exist.
Okay.
So you want to create a spell that exists, and then you want to cast that spell that will reveal invisible. That's right. So you want to do reveal invisible green.
Yeah, Jalen, use the reveal spell with Zelothoth. God, those names are so cool.
Zelothoth. Yeah. They were fun making.
Go.
There you go. See that?
Perfect.
We did it.
You see that one?
That was. Oh, and then the key. Okay, now I understand. Calypso, where were you? I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Where was I? This is a question from Elviona. I hope I said that right. If a person's actions affect the next playthroughs through the area for the other players, then does only the first player going through an area affect everybody else, or how do you decide which player affects whose playthroughs? That's from Twitch.
Right. I think that's a great question, and you have to think about it like this.
Everything we do echoes in eternity. And so if I do something like I write my name on a wall and I scratch it in and it's made of concrete,
20,000, I'll say this, let's make it smaller. 2,000 years from now, people can still read Dennis was here. That theoretically will affect everyone who plays that level. And so everyone that comes after me will be affected. Now, you have to look at how much are you going to let them affect the experience. So if we were to do things like allow people to write their names on the wall, would it be interesting for you to go up to that wall and read all? Some people would say yes, that would be really cool. But it really doesn't affect the core gameplay factors. Now, if we were to do things like that started affecting core gameplay factors, how emergent do we want to allow this to be? that's where the rubber meets the road. And the idea is to push the design as much as we can to give good quality experiences that we know gamers are going to appreciate, and at the same time combine that with the experiences of other players who have played before. People knowing that, hey, I'm not the first person to do this. People have been through this hundreds of times, and knowing that just like when you're skiing down a hill and it's the first snowfall and you get to see virgin snow, and that's a lot trickier than doing just regular snow when you're skiing. What is it that is going to be special about that first time experience? Those are the kind of things that we want to design, and that's just good design. And we just have to make sure that as we're making these things and working with the community to get good feedback, what would the best way to do this be? Does that make sense?
Jalen, save.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I just saw that. Thank you so much, Pandora. And Columns, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I get it. So this is kind of a follow-up question, sort of. So will Dead House Sonata be like server-based? Will you have US server 1, US server 2?
Oh.
Will there be private servers? And let's say server 1, or let's say I get my own private server. Will that kind of sort of start up a sort of fresh universe? How hard would that be to manage? Like, let's say, me, player number 1, goes in, writes my name on that piece of concrete in my own private server. Anybody who joins my server will see that, and it will still be the persistent narrative on that server. And if I join another server, if someone already did that, it will still be there, etc., 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 etc.
Right.
Would that be too hard to manage? Like, an example.
Well, let me answer the question that will alleviate all the.
Sorry.
That's okay. So they're good questions, and the answer is we're going to have one persistent server for everything.
Okay.
So think about it more. The best way to describe it is something similar to EVE Online, where there's one universe. Okay. So there's not going to be private servers. There's not going to be public servers. It's going to be one persistent world for everyone. There will be no server resets. If crafted properly, we should never have to reset anything. Time will just go on, and God forbid, of course, a complete server crash or something. But the universe will be there and persistent for everyone. When people go and do their things, we will create instances around that. So you won't have to worry about loads for thousands and thousands of people, server-wise and technically wise. But the universe itself will be one universe, one login, one persistence. So there won't be, hey, I want to be on the same server as my friend in North America or my friend in Europe. They'll just be logging into Dead House Sonata.
All right. This question comes from, I hope I'm saying this right, V-Man Nukem. And it's, are there anything from Shadows of Eternal that carried over to Dead House Sonata, be it like, elements or ideas? And will we ever see a sequel for Shadows of Eternal? Or will Shadows of Eternal ever see the light of day someday?
Yes, the answer is yes to all of the above. We've got a lot of things. We have a lot of things planned, but it's too early to discuss. As we said a long time ago, we've put Shadow of the Eternals on hold. It's not canceled, but we're focusing on Dead House Sonata right now. Their Dead House Sonata is so massive and sprawling that there is going to be, I guess, parts of all of the games that I've done in the past, like Eternal Darkness, in Dead House Sonata, and even in Memento Mori, there's at least 5 homages to all my previous games, if not more.
A lot of people pointed out the pillars there in Memento Mori, which is great. So speaking of that, fantastic that it was all in engine. Great voice acting. You showed Giants at the very last second. You showed Giga House. You showed Giants. How on earth is that going to work? Are they going to be like Shadow of the Colossus size big boys? Are they going to be more like, I guess, Hagrid from Harry Potter giants? Are they going to be varied in size? How are you going to pull that off?
There will be giants varied in size, and we've got lots of ideas how to pull it off. And as a matter of fact, I think the execution is going to be a lot of fun. We will not be doing things so far unless it's a particular boss fight like Shadow of the Colossus. However, don't forget, for every house we roll up, they will be playable. And we will be both encouraging PvE and PvP between the houses. So it should be a lot of fun.
That's so cool. Giants, man. That's so cool. All right.
I'm glad you think so. We're very excited about it.
This is a couple of months ago, or I guess throughout all of last year, and I think the beginning of this year, I read the Necroscope series per your recommendation, of course. And
Right.
I fell in love with that. I fell in love with that series. I fell in love with those books. Those vampires are amazing. Is there anything you're going to borrow from that series? Like, will we see a Harry Keogh type character who's a really strong telepath, who's maybe like a human or some kind of undead with really strong psychic powers? Will there be like a world, or will Dead House have sections or a multiverse like the vampiric world with castles made of bodies and a sun side and a night and a day side? And is that will that be a thing in Dead House? Will you take elements from the Necroscope series?
Well, it's all the stuff that I read is sort of. I always find that you want to drown yourself in content to really get an interesting perspective. Oh, you died, Jalen.
Yeah.
RGB.
Yes, I was using the green against the blue guy.
RGB. Yeah, that's correct. You're right. You're right. You're doing it right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Nope. I'm glad you checked.
That's
Yep.
I never actually knew that rule about Eternal either. Wait, really? Is there a color scheme for Eternal? Does that actually
Yeah.
matter?
Yes.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a
wow.
hierarchy. RGB. And it's throughout the whole thing. So red is greater than green. RGB. Yeah, red is greater than green.
And
Green is greater than blue. Blue is greater than red.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
that's new info. I never picked up on that. I
Yeah.
played this game like twice.
What about CMYK? We talked about that, but yeah, RGB works better. I'm a programmer. So what will we talk? Oh, so will there be a multiverse? Yeah.
Yeah, will
Sure.
there be like multiverses?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Will there be like there's going to be obviously a hierarchy of vampires and everything. Are any of them going to be like Tibor or Shythus or like, just like these? If people who are watching, if you guys haven't read the Necroscope book series, I highly recommend reading it. They're really quick reads. They're violent. They're gothic. They're brutal. The prose are really pretty. And there's a lot of elements that like were used in Blood Omen for that book series. Like the vampires are straight up Vorador, and just these gross amalgamations of like what vampires really are. Like they're creepy, they're scary. Like, will we see like disgusting vampires like that in Dead House, or will they be the more, I guess, romanticized but still dark like Kane types like we see with the Vampire Scholar in Dead House right now?
Well, did we crash?
Nope.
Hello?
Nope.
No?
Still here.
Okay,
I can
no,
hear you
okay,
guys.
that's just my stream. So we are going to be dark. I would say that our vampires are going to be nothing like what you see in most vampire stories or television shows. I'm just not a fan of most of that stuff. There's a few movies that I think are really good, but obviously I recommended Necroscope to you. That was I read that series back in 1992, I think.
Yeah.
And that particular author has written a lot of really good Lovecraft stuff too. So that's really a combination of sort of vampires with Lovecraftian mythos in some level. It's got a little bit of Elric in there for multiverse stuff. I'm a huge multiverse guy. So the the way that we're going to be doing some things is you need to think dark, and then you need to think 10 steps more, and then that's where we're going to be. We're going to be very dark.
That's
dark,
cool.
dark. So, I don't know. When it comes to the House of the Dead is going to be very dark. There'll be other houses, maybe some that aren't so dark, but they'll be terrifying in their own ways. So, yeah.
There's going to be a, I think it's Dream House, right? There's supposed to you plan on having a dream house, right?
You're asking questions. You're trying to.
I know.
I'm trying
to dig.
I know you're trying
to dig.
A lot of people have tried on this stream.
Oh man. Okay. Let me be vague about it. Let me be really vague. Obviously, because everything is so early and nothing is really final, I'll move on to something else. So we've talked about the ghoul a little bit. I know you guys have talked about the ghoul and how it eats body parts and that empowers it in certain ways. Like if you eat a brain, then you'll get smarter, and if you eat a heart, then you'll get stronger. Another game that kind of did that similarly was, oh crap, what was the name of it? I just had it. Evolve. That really short-lived, asymmetrical, with a really great idea. Evolve, where the more you eat, the bigger you grow, and then you become just like a massive Goliath creature. Will the ghoul be similar to that, where it's like you start off as a little runt, and then you just get so massive where maybe you even rival a giant from Giga House in size as a ghoul if you eat enough?
I don't know if that gives too much away, but we do have mechanics like that planned in the game. So specifically on that level and other levels, I thought Evolve was very interesting, and was sad to see that the short play experience was excellent, but the long term, it didn't seem to have what's the right word? Didn't seem to have legs, and I guess after a while became not very popular.
Yeah,
I think their monetization scheme really hurt them as well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But that was a cool game for sure. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, Evolve was great. Great for the time. Like I thought it had a really great concept, but then you roll out hundreds of dollars of DLC on day number 1, and that kills something. But
the whole thing about, so when people talk about ethical monetization, that was a premium game, correct? Didn't it sell for like $60?
Yeah. It was I think it was $60, and then they moved on to a subscription base that was $29.99 or something like that.
So I'm not. I guess I'm being critical to a certain extent, but let me try to explain what's happening in the video game industry. Now it's going to happen a lot more. It's going to be very rapid. COVID-19 has changed everything. But the marketplace has been trying to transition from premium games to recurring revenue games, which essentially is free-to-play. Free-to-play is, I think, a superior business model in every way. However, if you sell a game, the problem is if you sell a premium game and then your DLC actually costs more than your game, consumers get that and they don't like it, and I don't like that either. And when I think about free-to-play, if you're going to try the game out, it's like test driving the car before you buy it. There's no charge if you go to a car dealership and test drive a car. And there should be no charge for playing the game. And ethical monetization is not only over pay to win, it's over the entire life cycle of the product. Is how much of the product do you need to experience before you have to pay? And I think ethical models are, well, everything except for cosmetics should be the answer. So the fact that I think you had to buy creatures and monsters, wasn't that correct?
Yeah. You started off with one big boy named Goliath, oddly enough, and he was like a lizard alien Godzilla type monster, and then there was other ones that you had to buy that I think were like $20 a pop or something for each monster.
That's like saying, that would be like us saying, and this is the problem here lies within. Okay, Dead House Sonata is going to be a free-to-play game, and the only class is Every other class
Yeah.
you got to pay $10 for. People would just be like, "Screw you!" And I think it's the philosophy overall, and I'm looking at it for, especially with the crisis that's going on right now. We absolutely look. There's a lot of people are out of work right now, so we're gonna even hammer it home harder. People, even if all you have is an internet connection, you will be able to enjoy Deadhouse Sonata. Furthermore, we're gonna do some things where if people put in a ton of time, they will be able to get some of the premium items just by working hard. And furthermore, with our community created content, we're going to allow people to make money in the game so they can actually sell their stuff to others. And then that way, look, I'm not saying we're an answer to this crisis or anything close to that. However, we are really big believers in we're working for the community. We're working for everyone here. And I think the mistakes that have been made in the past, from the transition from premium to free to play, have really affected the industry negatively, especially with narrative driven games. One of the first things as soon as we said we were free to play and that we were online, people are like, this will never be narrative driven. This can never be like Legacy of Kain. And it's just not true, but I understand why people feel that way, because they've been burnt historically so many times in the past. And what I described earlier with the way that we're going to tell the story, there is so much country when it comes to emergent storytelling that I think not only are we going to be able to do it right, we will be able to offer gamers an experience that they've never had before when it comes to storytelling. So imagine the storytelling that you're used to with Legacy of Kain, Eternal Darkness, Too Human, but with the ability for Calypso, for you to go in and alter the environments and alter aspects of the story, leave your name in history for others to discover in later ages. I think that stuff is super cool, and it's, we'll see how it goes, but in the end, I feel really confident that is a worthwhile pursuit and gamers will love it. And if it gets to the point of, as an example, we made our own map editor for Legacy of Kain. If we would have released that to the public, even if it was buggy, I am certain to this point, there would be 20,000 hours of gameplay made from people who were using that editor in making levels with Legacy of Kain. I'm positive, because it's been, quite frankly, popular for over 25 years now. And there's always people saying, what about this story? What do you think about this? I've done this music stuff. We have all kinds of people wanting to contribute. So why not create a micro platform where it's official and people can actually do it? I think that's why we're really focusing on these three pillars. And our communications have not been great at the beginning, and now we're really starting to focus. Okay, this is the most important. This is another important thing, and this is another important thing, and these are the things that we're trying to communicate to everyone now. I hope that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. I get it. I get it, man. I get it. I hope everyone else does too. I think really quickly. Will there be a soul-eating sword that talks to you in Deadhouse Sonata?
Of course.
Awesome. There we go. That's the only question. I'm sold. I'm sold.
I believe we have as illustrated. If you haven't read I think you have read the Necro Libriatus. We have a micro universe inside the Revenant's Black Mace. Have you read Sonata of Justice?
No, I have not.
Okay, so on the webpage, there is a story called Sonata of Justice that describes a micro universe inside a sentient black mace.
That's all right then.
So check that out. And it's pretty interesting stuff. And I've had a lot of people tell me they've read that over a lot, understand that. So what I'm trying to do is work with people to try to explain the ideas as best we can. I think a lot of this stuff, once we put it in gameplay and people experience it, they're going to get it. But we're really trying to push the envelope. It's just I can only explain to people we're still early in development. We're still a small team. We're going to become a big team, but we're going to do it slowly and do it right. And I just want people to be patient with us. But what we're trying to do is something that's very bold and I think is worth exploring. And we are doing our best. So I apologize for all the miscommunication that we have done and that we will do in the future. So.
No, I mean, it's understand when dealing with a concept this, I guess, highbrow concept of what you guys want to pull off, and successfully, I think you will pull it off. It's tough to try to get everybody on board with that, especially when it sounds really good on paper and it sounds really confusing. Trying to talk about it, the only way you can really understand it is getting gameplay in your hands and actually playing it. Which is what the ages and stuff is for, and just why it's free to play and everything else.
Well, that's I guess how we're trying to combat that a little bit is we're moving towards more live stream and sort of dev talks, and less let's face it, we've almost talked about nothing about Eternal Darkness right now a bit.
Oh yeah, nothing.
And that's awesome. I think that's perfect. That's what we need to do. And from a standpoint of what can we do to best communicate these ideas, we want to do it in a format that's digestible for people and they know where they can come for information. And it's really hard to get everything out there. So now I think if you look at our very first playables compared to where we are now, you're starting to see more polish. You're still going to be replacing a lot of that work. A lot of that work still is going to be replaced. But it's funny when, as a developer, you look at these things and you try to gauge how you compare to other developers. If anyone were to look at, say, Path of Exile's very early demos compared to where they are now, it's like they look really bad. The early Path of Exile stuff looked really bad. And that is not an indication. And so it's really one of these things where even you look at Warframe, which I think is an excellent game. I believe when it first launched, it had some rough areas, right? People were like, "Wow, this is kind of a rough launch," but they recovered, right?
It was buggy. It was buggy, and there was just it had its issues. It wasn't that great, but it wasn't terrible either. But like all games, all early games, of course it's going to have issues. Of course it's going to have bugs, and of course you're going to need a patch. Jalen, you might want to save.
Yep, just did. Thank you.
But that's all game development that unfortunately a lot of like strong-willed communities such as the Legacy of Kain and stuff just like can't really understand. Like, game development is hard and it's time-consuming, and there's things that don't make the cutting room floor, and it's all just a giant process of elimination, and trying to wrap that around someone who doesn't understand game development or isn't part of the industry or doesn't have friends in the industry is difficult. Like, look at The Last of Us, for instance. The Last of Us has been delayed again. Last of Us 2 got delayed recently, and everyone's up in arms that, oh, why did it get delayed? Because it's a game that needs more polish, and then there's this whole virus fiasco going on, and it's tough to get people to understand. But I think...
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yep.
No, I think the more you guys push on Dead House, and I mean, it's too early to tell, but like, have you guys thought about streaming, like just making a model for Dead House, or streaming like one area of Dead House with the vampire or something repeatedly, like let's say you take a 20-minute area that's just really rough work, and you go through the process of making it and what you guys want to do and how it's going to change. Even though it's really early, I think people would, maybe be more accepting of that. Also, when you see a game being made, you understand more of what the developers are trying to do. Personally.
Yeah, we've certainly talked about that. I think that I guess it all depends on what the community wants. Certainly, streaming someone. So right now, as an example, Ray is reworking the Werebat, which is pretty cool. We did a lot of rework of the Vampire. Hopefully, that's obvious from the early demos to now.
Yeah.
But we just don't know if people are interested in that kind of thing. And the other thing is, I'm comfortable in talking. I'll just talk all the time. Not everyone's comfortable, right? So some people within the studio are just like, nah, that's not my thing. So, but if the community wants to hear something or see other people doing some stuff, let us know, and we're open to just about anything if the person wants it. I know Ian is pretty comfortable showing a lot of stuff off, I think, to the community. Certainly, so we're open to anything. I guess it's just really hard because you can only see things from your own perspective, and it's really hard for us to gauge on what's going to work and what's not going to work. So as an example, with Memento Mori, there was a very serious discussion of not showing that ever.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
And the reason was we didn't feel the quality was high enough. And that discussion went on for 2 weeks, I would say. And so you need to understand that we were prepared that people would hate it and say, like we see a ton of problems with it. We see a lot of things that we want to fix. We are perfectionists. We're a new studio, and like when we first launched our prototype, and we're still in what I would consider prototype stage. What we're building right now, still a combat prototype in many ways, and but everything in that demo, in Memento Mori, all of those animations, those are the new combat animations. Those are like in game. Like that's what the Vampire now uses. And people are going to start to see that stuff. However, when we did our first sort of early combat prototypes, having been in the industry for a long time, I'm just like, wow, this is textured. We have textures. We're doing great. People didn't see it that way. They're like, hey, the PS2 says hello, or PS1 says hello. And I was like, oh, man, but it's a prototype. And,
people, I think they see the word prototype and they don't really read it. Like, you know, I could put I think I released a couple of videos for you guys of just early Dead House gameplay and just taking your videos and putting them on my channel. I can put prototype in there as many times as I want, and people just won't understand that because, again, we as gamers, we want a finished product and we expect it to be, done right from the get-go, but that's not how game development works.
Well, so so this is just I'm just going to totally, I guess, in some sense, open the kimono to the community here, as I think people should really, truly realize development is opaque. It's really hard to see what it's like on the inside unless you actually do it yourself. So, and I think, just real quick, Jalen, I assume you've been at the company now for a few months. You've learned a ton, I assume, right? Just on how things work.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so there are two types of developers, really. Most developers are really good at putting out marketing and really controlling the message at what they're showing. So as an example, a lot of people will only show things 2 or 3 months before a game launches because that's when the game's going to look its best. However, and then they'll say, hey, we want input from the community. That's a lie in itself, because if you're 2 months from shipping the game, I could talk to you for 4 months straight, and unless I delay that game for a year, none of your input's going to get in, right? And so that's called what's controlling the message. And then there are other developers, and I think there's some of them out there. It's what we did when we showed that prototype. That was real gameplay. That was a playable demo that you could sit down and play. And however, we got crucified for it for the usual suspects of graphics, animation, but here's the difference. Here's the thing to think about. You know that, what was that huge MMO that got $8 million in crowdfunding and then they canceled it?
Oh, Illyria? Something like that?
Illyria, right.
Yeah.
So there's a really good example. I don't know if they ever truly showed any gameplay at all. Like a lot of it looks pre-rendered, and from a standpoint of being true to your audience means that you're going to get beat up a lot, and being true is really hard because it's a two-edged sword. But we're just gonna try to get out there, and I guess from a perspective of laying it all out, we're not claiming that we're better than anyone else. Far from it. I've made huge communication mistakes already, I think, with Dead House Sonata, and I'm trying to improve. And we certainly didn't say enough that this is super early prototype, but there were some things in there that are really cool, like it's all procedurally generated. But procedural generation has a very bad name right now.
Yes. Yeah, there's Go ahead.
No, we shouldn't have said that word. It was like swearing. And I was like, oh man. And free to play and online for narrative, again, same thing. People were like, actually, people literally said, screw you, Dennis, you're full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, but I think we can do it. And, hopefully they and others out there will, that the gamers in general, when they see what we're doing, both our mistakes and the things we get right, will see that we're being as transparent as possible. So that's our goal. I hope it comes through, and I guess people will be the judge. So gamers will be the judge in the end. But we're trying, everyone. We're trying so hard.
Yeah, a lot of people in the chat prototype this, and people don't understand. So it's I think we have a community that gets it. But it's what was I going to say? Okay, so I have a friend who also works in the game industry. He is a concept artist and a UI. What is a UI? The guy who makes the user interfaces. That guy.
Yep.
He does that, and he has been with this company, a big company, for 2 years now. And this company has already showed a working demo, and they have made lots of promises. And this game is still 2 or 3 years in development, but they've scrapped every single prototype that they've worked on and started from scratch. And it's supposed to come out in a couple years at this big company that's making a big game. So I think you're definitely right. But you got to be as transparent as possible without lying to the community by releasing a demo that will never see the light of day or whatever. But it's with being transparent, that's really hard because you are transparent and you got to roll with the punches of the negative and the positive. But I think also that a lot of gamers nowadays, especially myself, I don't know if I can speak for anyone else, I love the making of stuff. I love going, a lot of my browsing on YouTube is the making of, this game or the behind the scenes of that game, and just to see how it works. I generally enjoy that aspect. So I think seeing a game go from zero to hero over its course of development, and in early playable beta stages and everything like that is great. When Nosgoth came out and sadly died shortly after, being a part of that early testing phase and seeing new patches roll out and seeing just the game grow and develop with the community that was talking about, well, this should be fixed and that should be fixed, and then developers actually doing it and listening to us sometimes and everything. That's cool. That's really friggin' cool. So
Yeah.
I think Dead House, like you guys will obviously have that, but
We're trying. I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're certainly trying to respond to everyone when they make suggestions.
yeah. So I don't think you should sell yourself short on the community not being able to understand that yes, this is an early prototype and it's still being worked on, and this isn't even close to what the final product, you know. But that's just me.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
No. I definitely. I think the people within our community, because especially the people that were on board with our first prototypes, we really, really welcome that, and we're kind of in this really strange position where I think what we're doing is pretty cool, and we just have to slowly take small steps to get people to the point where they're like, I get it. This is cool. I think we're seeing, I guess it's called the flywheel principle. We're starting to get people, when we started talking about ages, I think that was one of the first areas where I think some lights turned on with people. Jalen, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but we started having people going, hey, this is pretty different. And now with certainly Memento Mori, I'm just looking at my cat trying to come in right now. We have 6 cats here now. The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. It's been, fantastic. And we always want to make continual steps towards that. And getting the game to the point where we're meeting people's expectations is super important for us. And the problem is you don't know what expectations are.
Yeah. Expectations are really high. Expectations are really high. Like, hey, it's Dennis Dyack. He's made great games over the years. Like, you're gonna have a lot to take in and a lot of expectations from these people. Like, dude, you made Blood Omen, which spun off into like my favorite game series and a lot of other people's favorite game series, and you made Eternal Darkness, which right from just this footage and Jalen playing and the streams or whatever proves that it still holds up and it's still awesome, and that comes with a lot of weight. It's like David Jaffe making God of War and Twisted Metal and stuff. Like, he's made games and people have a high expectation for him, and you expect it to be good. You expect it to be good. Period. No, hands down. If it's not perfect, I want a refund. I'm like,
well, yeah, there's a lot of people out there that tell me I suck every day too. Those are always good, humble reminders too. So, but yeah, I understand that part, and I guess we're trying to take all. At least I do, and I think I do the team in this regard. The team, it's a new team, it's a new company, but we're trying to take all the lessons learned from the past that we can and apply them in positive ways. And there are certain things from, every game that I've made that has a lot of value when it comes to, what can we do? And as an example, the sanity system in Eternal Darkness, that in itself, how can that be applied to, say, Dead House Sonata or, multi-universes and pocket universes that you saw with the Trapper, that concept, putting them in sentient weapons, all of those kind of things are really cool. And I think it's a lot of potential of things that we've done before, but now we can build upon. And that's where I hope that what we create is something that really stands out. So, as I was saying earlier, when we first started talking about Dead House Sonata as being a narrative-driven spiritual successor to Cain, we had a lot of people saying, "No chance, buddy."
Yeah, because
no chance.
It doesn't make sense. Like, when you say it out loud, it doesn't make sense at all. Like, how can an online game that is it's one of its main focuses is online play, co-op play, PvP, PvE, just that in general thing with an open community, how can you have a narrative experience when a lot of people's perceptions of narrative is the ABC storyline, the hero's journey,
Right.
like Star Wars or whatever. Like, how can you take Star Wars and make it into a persistent online universe? And then they tried, and then it failed. But it's like it's tough to get that to fully try to wrap your hands and your head around what that is and how that works, because it's a new concept. It's relatively a new thing that a lot of people won't really get until, like I said earlier, until people get their hands on it, which is a lot of games. You can look at a demo a million times a day and it looks cool. It might look awesome, but until you play it, you won't know if it really is awesome.
That's right. Yeah, that's been that's when I used to I kind of, I guess I died on that hill, but I still stand by it. I used to say that back in the days of E3, having the best of E3, saying this is the game of the year before the game is launched, before anyone's played it, kind of impossible, because gameplay is one of the things that makes the mediums of video games different. And I totally agree with that. And if there's one thing that I'll say when it comes to this type of storytelling that probably sets me apart from most of the writers in the industry, I can't think of anyone else who writes. And my background is computer science. I've got 2 degrees in computer science, master's in artificial intelligence, neural networks, user interface, and then just a comp sci, straight up comp sci degree. I also have a phys ed degree, but that's when I was wrestling, and it taught me a lot of stuff too. I'm taking everything from all the degrees, but the writing that I do and the way that I structure things is based off of comp sci. And when you look at a lot of the other writers, Amy as an example, I think her training and writing is traditional.
Yes,
I did not do well. Yeah, I did not do well. I guess I did. I did painting, but no, not really. I didn't. And I taught myself to write because I wanted to. I wanted to have that experience. And I'm hoping that my computer science background is going to give me tools to create stories in the sphere that people previously have not considered because they don't have that background in computer science. Because a background in computer science is that's truly understanding how things work from a fundamental level in distributed systems, very complicated systems, and how can we do these things, and how I can take, like, I have a native understanding of what big data is compared to most people because I understand computer science, and then at the same time I can apply that to writing because I've written before. So I understand what it takes to put together a narrative, and I also understand the fundamental aspects of computation. And I think that seems to be somewhat undiscovered country in the right time for all of these things, because now that we're starting to move towards the clouds, there's experiences that we couldn't possibly have. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. And I'm not tooting my own horn in any way. Maybe having a computer science makes me a crappy writer. I don't know.
A terrible writer.
It's possible. And I've been, I've certainly had people tell me I'm a terrible writer, so that's okay. I try, I do the best I can. And I hope that what we're showing in Memento Mori and where we want to take it for the future, with the combination of Aegis and Deadhouse Sonata being a single persistent server for people to log into, has way more benefits than it does negatives. And I've played a lot of single player. Again, we've gone from single player to multiplayer to meta player.
Yeah. So
let's think about meta player narrative. That's what's interesting to me.
Super meta, man. Super meta.
Yeah.
So one of something I'm super excited for is the community content and stuff that you guys will eventually be rolling out, like later on down the line, of course. How is, you mentioned earlier, you said you made a map editor for Blood Omen, or you said hypothetically?
No. So we made that engine from the ground up, and we had the map editor itself we made. I said if I hypothetically would have released that to...
Oh man, I was like, can you release it, please?
If we could find the code somewhere, I would. I don't know where that is or if anyone has it.
Okay,
That's going way back before the days of clouds, right? So it could be on a bunch of floppy disks somewhere.
Oh man, floppies.
Yeah.
So with that, I guess. So Dead Island's community creation. And people can start making money off of it. Later on down the line, of course. How would that work towards, like, let's say Golden Zan makes like a super awesome map and like just a super awesome short like single player story or whatever, like mission, I guess, that maybe lasts like an hour or whatever. Will there be, how would you, and like, let's say people love it so much that they want to make it canon, how would that go about being worked on? Like, would there be like a voting poll, like, hey, Golden Zan gets like, all these likes on his mission or whatever, and then you guys would go in there and somehow integrate it into the story if people want it to be canon or whatever? Like, if it's just that good, if it's like the golden boy of all community creative levels?
Gotcha. So, look, the way we would do it, first of all, is the concept is we have what's called micro platform, and canon. So let's leave canon off for a second.
All right.
So Golden Zan can make this level on which you could go into the online store and check out and play in the game right away, whether it's canon or not. So the idea would be, say he decides that he's going to sell it for $1. So he does that, and you pay $1 and you try his level out. And it becomes so popular that eventually he keeps adding and adding and adding, brings it up to $10, and people are like, man, this is better than the stuff of the original creators, and it becomes super popular. So if we wanted to make it canon, I guess all we would do would be to integrate it, I guess, into the main branch and discuss with Golden Zan, what we would do to make it canon and make it, whether it would be even raising the production quality of it higher or doing a bunch of things that's separate. It's really hard. Difference is going to be. However, our philosophy with the map editor and the content creation is going to be, you don't have to open Lumberyard to make a level. We want people to be able to make things without actually opening the editor.
Okay, cool.
So for those people who really want to and want to make stuff, we'll look for ways to integrate like geometry and stuff like that. However, the idea would be you can just make adventures if you have no technical skill at all, if you're just creative.
Yeah, have you thought about, you probably have thought about all of these things. Have you thought about maybe like doing a Fallout 4 kind of thing where you can, it's literally in the game itself where you can just go to level editor, click on like the main menu, and then you build your own little area or house with like maybe a drag and drop kind of thing, like Dreams just did recently, or how Unity kind of works with lots of drag and drop stuff.
Yeah, that's going in engine, and we want to avoid that. And because we're going to be on so many platforms, it tends to work really well for PCs, not so well for console, and awful for mobile.
Yeah.
And mobile is going to be, of course, it'll be important, but it'll be the lowest priority for us. So the idea is we want to have all the editors up in the cloud, so you can basically make all of those things without going in game. That's going to be the goal.
Okay.
Because in engine is going to remove 95% of most gamers. It's going to stop them from even being able to make anything. So the goal is to allow people to be creative and be able to build levels like any typical tabletop dungeon master would be, and then at the same time take that information and then build our levels with it.
Okay. Cool. Speaking of the dungeon master thing, you guys put out a little video a while ago, or not even a while ago, like what, a couple weeks ago, about your dungeon master thing that you guys have in Deadhouse. Like, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? The video covers it pretty well, but like, will there be enemies, or if you're in a PvP like match or something, will an enemy be able to be like the counter dungeon master for you and set traps for you and everything like that?
Well, so that's a very interesting question, and that's really talking the interactive streaming aspects and the sort of deep social media integration. There you're having people through Twitch affecting the game in the role of the dungeon master that we have defined. And the idea of that exercise was to show. Jalen dies. Probably a good time to finish off the stream. But
Yeah.
Actually, just what I was thinking.
okay, cool. The idea is that you can affect the game from a real-time level on Twitch, and whether it be a dungeon master, a shopkeeper, other things that affect the level. So when you say, can you have someone on the other side try and stop you? Yeah, absolutely. Can you have people control bosses, make the game harder? Yeah, for sure. It's whatever we want to design in the game. We're just trying to show right now that it's possible. And the interesting thing about that is, remember, you have people playing the game on Twitch that don't have the game necessarily.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a real sort of head twist on this whole sort of meta universe. And I think that has a lot of potential for the future. So the answer is yes, for sure. It's all going to come down to what we want to design, and we're going to work with the community on that, see what people want.
All right.
Alrighty.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Calypso, for joining us this week. That was a great conversation that we had. We actually went over our usual hour time limit, so that's quite all right, though. Believe me, it's not an issue. I was trying to find somewhere to save in Eternal Darkness, but I could not. Pandora Jane is telling me I needed a room without traps. Thank you so much, Pandora, for your help this entire playthrough. I've been reading your hints, and we got through quite a bit of stuff today. We'll be at the same point when we come back here next week, so you guys won't have to watch me go back through all this stuff again. But again, thank you so much, Calypso, for joining us. Is there anything you'd like to say before we end the stream?
Thank you for having me. Not really. You guys can follow me on YouTube at the Necrolibriatus, and you can also follow me on Twitter at the Necrolibriatus. And yep, that's pretty much it. Thanks for having me.
All right, and thank you, Dennis, for joining us as always. We will.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We'll see all of you guys in the chat next week when we do this again, Friday night at 4 p.m., same time, same place. But if you have any ideas on things you'd like to see in Dead House Sonata, please let us know. You can go to our website, deadhousesonata.com, where you can find our forums and a link to our Discord, where you can have your voice be heard. We'll be going over a lot of your suggestions and feedback on Tuesday when Ian and myself do our community roundtable streams. But until then, please go check that stuff out. You can also visit our store page to see about purchasing a Founders Pack and become a part of our first age. Fight the living, everybody, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.